Spoiler warning for The Haunting of Bly Manor. I don't watch a whole lot of TV series, and when I do, I can get emotionally attached to specific characters very easily. And when I watched The Haunting of Bly Manor, that happened. Welcome to Vanessa Júpiter's sitting room. Let's talk about Dani Clayton from The Haunting of Bly Manor. Part 1. Who is Dani Clayton? Dani Clayton is a US American who was hired by Henry upon her arrival in England to take care of his nibblings, Miles and Flora. These kids live in the mansion called Bly Manor. Something that I love about Dani Clayton is the fact that she really is doing her best at being a good person at all times. There is a scene in the first episode that I think is very remarkable to represent who Dani is. Miles and Flora lock Dani inside a closet in Flora's room. Dani is livid inside the closet. When she's finally released from inside the closet, I was expecting her to potentially do something bad against the children. I was expecting her to potentially harm them, either emotionally or physically. That didn't happen at all. At all times, she kept her anger directed in positive ways. She was extremely angry, and she did talk to Flora and Miles about it, and she did express her anger, but she never allowed herself to do something that would harm these kids. We understand in that moment that she just will not hurt people. I have a very special place in my heart for any character who is constantly and always trying to do their best, no matter the circumstances. This is not to say that Dani is a perfect character. Dani has a hard time taking care of herself rather than taking care of other people. She is the type of person who will put the needs of others before her own. As much as this is a problem for people to have, it still makes her an extremely sympathetic character. After arriving at the house, Dani also meets Jamie, who is the gardener of Bly Manor. They soon fall in love with each other, and we find out more about Dani's backstory, while also knowing that she is a gay woman living in the 80s. Part 2. Why is Dani here? Rowan Ellis made a video on The Haunting of Bly Manor, link in the description, and in that she mentions that some people have been saying that The Haunting of Bly Manor does not depict homophobia. And on the surface, it's comprehensible why people would say that, because the relationship between Dani and Jamie is never seen as anything other than just a relationship by the characters around them. And nobody screams slurs at them. But just like Rowan Ellis pointed in her video, that analysis is overlooking a very important factor of the narrative of the origin of Dani in The Haunting of Bly Manor. Dani was going to get married to Eddie. The reason why she wanted to marry Eddie in the first place is because she thought that it would be possible for her to stay in the closet forever. The only reason why someone would believe that they should and could stay in the closet forever is a homophobic society. By episode 4, I still had this kind of mindset of like, oh, maybe The Haunting of Bly Manor is going to depict queer relationships without showing any homophobia. So when we finally meet Eddie and we see Eddie and Dani on their wedding night, and Eddie says, "We only need to go through this one night," my reaction was to think that maybe it was a lavender marriage. That is, a marriage between a man and a woman, both of them being gay, in order to keep both of them in the closet and keep up appearances for their family. And that's what I thought we were dealing with. And at that point, I really expected something different from the story. But once the story actually unfolded and I realized that Eddie was actually in love with Dani, but Dani couldn't because of her sexuality, and that is what led to Eddie's death, I retroactively noticed that everything in the story was about homophobia. When Dani's having her interview to become the au pair for the kids with Henry, Henry asks, "What is the catch?" in reference to Dani being too perfect. Dani shouldn't want to be an au pair for kids that she doesn't know in another country. When Henry asks Dani about this, Dani responds with, interesting that you would ask that, because to me, this job sounds too perfect, and it seems like you should have managed to find someone to fill in this position rather easily. So, indeed, what is the catch? Henry's catch was the fact that Bly Manor was known to be a haunted place, and people didn't want to work there because of that. But it's never made explicit what Dani's sketch would have been. This idea that people would be afraid of a place because of things that have happened there before would indicate some type of traditional mindset. It could be read that Dani's sketch, the thing that she didn't want to reveal, was her homosexuality. And she was afraid of that same tradition. Would be the same tradition that would make people turn from her because of homophobia. And this is what I mean by everything in The Haunting of Bly Manor is related to homophobia when it comes to Dani's story. It's there from the very beginning. Dani is trying to comply with tradition at all times. There's this obsession that she has over the first few episodes of trying to make the perfect teas a traditional thing. So her trying to do tea in the traditional way, in a way that will make the people from Bly like her. She's trying to comply to tradition as much as possible. And then there's that one thing about her that doesn't allow her to comply with tradition as much as she would like to. She doesn't want to be gay. Part 3. How does Dani cope? After Eddie's death, Dani starts seeing him as a ghost in the mirror. Unlike the other ghosts in Bly Manor, Eddie cannot touch people. He is just in Dani's mind. Eddie is the manifestation of Dani's guilt, and her guilt over having in her mind been the reason why Eddie died. Not only her being the reason, but her homosexuality being the reason why Eddie died. The last ghost that Dani will continuously see is Viola. In the relation between the ways that Dani sees Eddie and the ways that Dani sees Viola are there. So there's this interpretation that we can make that Viola is just a replacement of Eddie inside Dani's mind. Viola is the continuous representation of guilt that Dani never manages to stop facing, because she never manages to stop feeling guilty over her sexuality and over her lack of compliance with tradition. This is bleak. Dani dies because of her guilt over her sexuality. Let's talk about the bury your gays trope. There's been some conversation about some people being upset about The Haunting of Bly Manor killing gay characters, and some people have said that it is bury your gays, where gay characters are killed in a disproportionate amount compared to their hetero counterparts. And there has also been a lot of backlash against this narrative that The Haunting of Bly Manor fit into the barrier gaze trope. Rowan Ellis mentioned it in the same video that I mentioned earlier. I think it's more complicated than that. Another thing that makes people call a certain death in media barrier gaze is when homosexuality or queerness are the reason why the character dies. And I think that The Haunting of Bly Manor fits that description. I don't think I'm alone in saying that the representation of The Haunting of Bly Manor has been nothing but extremely respectful towards queer characters. And still, we saw homophobia killing. We always talk about tropes being not good nor bad, and to me, this is one of the best examples of that, where it seems like on paper it's the worst type of tropes, but in practice, it was handled perfectly in context. If anything, Bly Manor proves that it's possible to write a story that features heavy homophobia leading to extreme tragedy and still be respectful of its queer characters. Part 4. What did Dani do to save everyone? Dani might never have been able to break tradition for herself in her own mind, and she might never have been able to actually accept who she was. This is partly because she always put the oxygen mask on others before taking care of herself. In line with that, she actually did manage to break tradition for everybody else except for her. When she accepts to destroy Viola by destroying herself, what she does is save all of the souls from Bly Manor. Viola was a representation of tradition that Dani managed to overcome. She is the ultimate selfless hero. The real tragedy of Dani Clayton is the selflessness, where she simultaneously managed to destroy tradition but never managed to give the same kindness to herself. Dani, all while being the most selfless hero in the entire narrative, she goes as far as saying that she thought that she was being selfish. She still somehow feels like she's not doing enough. I'm doing a little bit of a Superman reference here today. Superman sometimes, not always, but sometimes is referred to as kind of a Jesus allegory. And Jesus died to protect all of us. Jesus supposedly died to make everything better for the rest of us. So what I'm saying is that Dani Clayton, through my muddled Superman imagery here, is also kind of a Jesus allegory, and I stand. Dani died and saved all of us. And finally, part 5, memory and grief. Back to episode 4, the fire episode, the biggest grieving ritual that we will see in the entire series. Also, Hannah grows. We see her lighting candles all the time as her grieving ritual. And those rituals are always portrayed as a positive thing. Owen has just lost his mother, and he manages to make a speech to the fire. The others say that he doesn't have to. His mother died today, but he does. The character who does not manage to do that is Dani. All the grief that she knows is guilt. She still has not managed to start processing things. By the ending of the episode, Dani goes back to the fire by herself and she speaks directly to her vision of Eddie. And that is the last time that we see Eddie. The idea that Dani had an obligation to grieve publicly with the others is unfair. And if anything, I think that that episode shines a light on the fact that there's no wrong way to grieve. The only wrong way is not to grieve. And that if Dani doesn't want to do it publicly, it's her own business. But I must say that there's yet another way in which Dani's relation to grieving ties back into her sexuality, and that is shame. She is ashamed by what she did, and until she manages to be rid of that shame, she cannot fully grieve. There's also the scene where Jamie actually tells Dani that she should do therapy and that therapy and talking to someone actually works. That to that almost feels like a thesis statement of the show. So the show very much is in favor of people opening up, and Dani learns to do that. And I think that that is an important lesson of The Haunting of Bly Manor. The Haunting of Bly Manor with Dani Clayton is a story about a woman that is struggling with guilt and shame because of her sexuality in a homophobic society. She tries to abide to tradition and eventually manages to get rid of her own shame. She destroys tradition for all of us, but because she was a selfless hero all along, she remembered to take care of us, break tradition for all of us, but she didn't put the oxygen mask on herself first, and she ended up having to pay the price. Thank you. Hi! It took me a while to finally post another video after the possession video, and this is because I actually got sick twice over November. Just a reminder that every Sunday at 5 p.m. or 17 o'clock Central European Time, I am doing Vanessa Júpiter reads Frankenstein. This is happening right here on this channel on YouTube. You just have to be here at the right time and you will see me reading Frankenstein. Also, consider following me on Instagram and Twitter. Love, Vanessa Júpiter.